Welcome to this course on career transition strategies. My name is Alex Kinedinik and I'll be your instructor. In this video, I'll tell you a little bit about what to expect from the course, a little bit about my background, and we'll start right away. Well, this course is designed to be taken in under 1 day. You can watch this course or listen to it. You don't have to actually watch it, but you can quickly absorb the material. It's made to be quickly taken and for the strategies to be applicable. So in every video, I'll give you a strategy that you can use and apply ASAP that are going to be very actionable strategies, many coming from my own experience because I've had a number of successful career strategies. I studied to be a computer scientist. I was a software engineer. After that, I created my own successful business. And throughout this entire time, I've also had a number of hobbies that I took relatively serious that were also partial career changes. So I'm actually going to share with you all the experiences through that entire journey of the last 20 years so that you can take the industry proven and most effective career transition practices that I used that are also our standard and apply it to your own successful career transition. So that's going to be the course. Welcome and let's begin. As we begin our conversation about career transition strategies, there is a certain truism that I want to point out that we're going to use to build our strategy for career transition out of. And this truism is that anytime you get into a new field, there are some things that you expect because you just know a little bit about that field but don't have practical hands-on experience because you're transferring into it. But because you're transitioning into something new, there is a whole world of unexpected and new things and surprising things and disappointing things even that you're about to find out. This has nothing to do with your specific career that you're trying to transition into. This is a truism for anything you do that's new. For example, a few years ago, I had this dream for many years that I was going to do music. And a few years ago, I actually started doing music seriously. I learned guitar. I started taking singing lessons even, at an adult age. People were like, why are you doing this? Well, I always had a dream. I wanted to, right? But I didn't know what I was getting into. And I have to tell you, wow, I have professional experience. I have a lot of experience doing different things, but there were so many things that were new, like music. It required a whole new kind of editing, a whole new set of people you would hire. And then from people you would hire, everybody says they're great. And then you have to try them and they see, okay, not so great, or kind of good, but not great. And you have to go through so many people and varying opinions and varying levels of feedback. And it's so confusing. And it's just a whole new world where I just wanted to make songs, but I have to deal with hiring people. I have to deal with software for editing. I have to deal with, other things that I never thought of. And it just took way longer, but I'm still happy with it. But the level of surprise was profound, and that's what I want to share with you. So, in light of that, there's a lot of things that you're about to find out that, our blind sides, we don't know our blind spots. That's why they're blind spots, because we can't see them. We don't know what we don't know. Which is why we have to start with two things. Getting a mentor, I'm going to talk about in the next video, and networking with your peers. That's going to be your support network where you can always go for advice so that if you have a question, you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. You want to build a team of support around you, not necessarily paid. Some people can be paid, but mostly it's free. But you want to be able to bounce ideas off so you don't step into every pitfall there is, right? This is what we're going to tackle. The problem of finding out what you don't know before it's a problem so that you can create a plan for how to tackle it when you see it. So in the next video, I'm going to give you some savvy strategies for how to find mentors. Now let's talk about how to find good mentors who care about your success in the industry to which you're transitioning to. And the number one requirement for those people is that they themselves have been successful in that industry. You can't take someone who's good in the food industry and have them mentor you about how to get into the aerospace industry. They'll know some things because they may be a successful professional, but there will be so many things they have no idea about, and it would be arrogant to think that just because you succeeded in one thing, you will succeed in another. Yes, there could be a high correlation, but it's not the same because there's just so many unknowns. So the first thing you want is somebody who has been successful in the field you're getting into. And the second thing is they have to be receptive and they have to want to genuinely help you. Some people are genuinely nice and helpful. Some people are just not. And you have to find the ones that are truly wanting to be helpful. Now, how do you make people want to help you? For example, I want to help a lot of people because I actually predicated my entire business on helping people. I teach, I coach, I really am passionate about helping people who are struggling because before I used to struggle and I know how stressful it is. I feel it, so I want to help. But I cannot help everybody who comes to me for mentoring. Like I get almost daily requests on LinkedIn, in courses, can you help me for free? Can you do this for me? I want to, but I humanly don't have the capacity. So I help a few people. Who are those people? How do I choose them? There's a certain idea that I want to introduce you, connecting the dots. And another idea I want to introduce you to is take an inch, go a mile. These are metaphors. I'm going to explain what they are. Connecting the dots is, if I meet somebody for the first time, they may ask me for some advice. I'm happy to give it. What I want is for them to go and take that advice, come back to me in 2 weeks or a month or however long, and say, hey, I've taken your advice. That was so helpful. Here's what I did with it. Here's what happened. Okay, so I had that dot in the beginning, and hopefully there's a connecting graph that, they used my suggestions. I didn't waste my time. They used it, and it actually helped them. Great, I'm happy to give more suggestions. So that person takes more suggestions, comes back in 2 to 3 weeks or a month or however long, and says, wow, that helped a lot too. Now I did even more, and I'm further along. Now that person is creating a graph. For me, the graph would look up and to the right like this. I think for you on the screen, it would look up and to the right like this. In any case, the good-looking graph, like they're always growing and they're taking your advice seriously. These are the people who are connecting the dots because they take an inch, they take a little bit of my time, a little bit of advice, but they run with it. They go a mile with it. This tells me, actually it doesn't tell me, it shows me. Because anybody can say, I'm so hardworking. And everybody says that. I'm so good. But few people are, right? So this is a way to show potential mentors that you're going to take their advice, take them seriously, respect their time. And actually, it's delightful when people take my advice and go and do something with it and succeed and do better in their life. I feel so good about it. I want to do more. And there are people like that I help for free. And there are many people who I say, I actually cannot even take you as a coaching client paid because I just don't have the time. This is a big difference. Of course, I'm a different case, like other people aren't like that, but this is how you get mentors. Because good people who are successful in their industry are busy. Of course, because they're successful, everybody wants some of their time. So you have to really fight and appreciate their time. Now, how do you find such people? There are many people you can find on Twitter, now X, LinkedIn. You can easily find people, thought leaders in your industry. Obviously, if you message the top person in your industry, they just really won't have the time. But if you message people who are relatively successful in your industry, they'll have the right amount of time. They'll have enough time for the right person. They won't have time for everybody, but for the right person. And how do you become that person? You don't ask for everything right away. You maybe make a nice comment on something they're doing. Maybe they wrote an article. Maybe they posted some link online. Make a nice comment. Get on their radar. Send them a private message. Say thank you, that you appreciate their work and their work has benefited you. Maybe you ask them, hey, I really love your work. How can I help you? It's free. I just want to be involved. Make it easy for them to engage with you and stand out that way. Because remember, if they're good, you're one of many people who wants their advice. So you have to show that you are going to go the extra mile. You are the one, right? Show that. And so after a few interactions, positive interactions, when they start to know you a little bit, it's not cold anymore. You're not just some stranger anymore asking for advice. Then you ask for advice. Once that interaction has warmed up a little bit, you ask for a little bit of advice. And this is where you take an inch, use that advice, go a mile. You don't have to go a literal mile, but just show that you use it somehow, and have that cycle repeat a few times, and then maybe ask, hey, thank you so much for helping me. Can I do anything for you? And then this is growing your relationship, right? This is the right way to network. Essentially, it boils down to give more value than you take, because so many people, understandably, when they're under stress, they just want to take, ask for advice. They need help. And so they're not takers, but they appear as though they are takers because they're under stress, and the only thing they can do is whatever removes that stress. They try to remove that stress, usually financial stress, and so they need help right away, and they ask desperately. But it doesn't look good on the other side, where you're meeting people for the first time, coming across them, and they're just asking you for stuff. So knowing that, be the person who provides more, who gives more value, and this is where mentors will be more receptive to you. Now, of course, there are also coaches you can hire. This mentor idea that I was talking about, this is all free. You can also hire coaches, hourly or per program. They can be a little expensive, but it's not a bad idea if the coach is good. Sometimes you can ask for a discounted or free initial consultation for an hour just to see if you have a good vibe and a good chemistry with that coach. And if you do, a good coach is invaluable. Bad coaches, there's so many of them, and they're bad. But every once in a while, there's a great coach. It's like hiring in any profession. You don't hire the first person that you see. You hire the best one after trying a number of them. So if you find the right coach, it's okay to pay them. In fact, it's a good idea to pay them, because the idea is they will propel you forward. And you can find coaches paid. It's easy. You don't have to work hard like you would to get a free mentor. You would find coaches by searching Google, even searching Upwork on Fiverr if you want discount coaching. There are some people offering that, but there's plenty. You can also ask around in your industry for referrals, etc. So it's easy to find them. They promote themselves. They advertise because they want to get paid. But that's the idea. Now you understand how important it is to get a mentor and how to get them free or paid. In addition to surrounding yourself with helpful coaches and mentors, you also want to surround yourself with helpful and supportive peers. There are two very easy ways to surround yourself and find great peers who are going through the same things, who have more time for you. This is the great thing about peers. Mentors have a limited amount of time for you. Peers have more time. You can meet with them more. You can brainstorm things openly in different ways. And they understand you a little better because they're going through the same issues at the same time. Because let's say you have a mentor, maybe they succeeded 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Things change, and the peers are dealing with issues that are currently pertinent. So how do you find these peers? The simplest way is online. You go on LinkedIn or you go on Facebook and you look for groups. Let's say you want to become an online influencer. There are so many groups of how to become a successful YouTuber. And people there are helpful. That's the idea of the group, is to help each other. You can come, you can be humble there, ask questions, and people will help you. There are many similar groups for many industries. Not all industries have vibrant online communities, but many, the majority of industries out there, engineering, marketing, majority of industries have at least some sort of helpful communities online that you can join with a lot of people there who are already successful, and at the same time they are also your peers. Or sometimes it's the same person, sometimes there are different people who are some peers, some successful people. Personally, whenever I start any new project or get into any new field, one of the first things I do is try to find helpful online communities, because you immediately learn what you would need to learn on day one instead of making those mistakes on day one. It's easy, and you can do this without leaving the house. Now, speaking of leaving the house, the second thing that's highly recommended is to find local meetups about your new industry. Some meetups are plentiful on some topics, like if you want to go to an engineering meetup or a marketing meetup or a mobile app developer meetup, there's many of those. But I admit some industries have fewer meetups. But nevertheless, you want to do two things. You can go meetup.com Or go to Google and search for, let's say you want to get into the aerospace industry, and you would look for aerospace events. Probably you're not going to find any kind of aerospace events because it's a little bit of an obscure kind of search. Out of 100 people, I don't even know if one is in the aerospace industry, right? It's like a very small percentage of people, maybe it's a 0.1% of the population is in that industry. So it's a little obscure and you're not going to have a vibrant community of it, right? So that's where you have online resources first. But there are many industries, even in, let's say, aerospace industry. Well, the solution to that is to zoom out of that industry. So instead of just focusing on aerospace, you would focus on what's kind of a one step back. So maybe the defense industry, okay, that's a little more broad. Or maybe the sciences, or maybe physics, right? You kind of take a step back and see what are the bigger sort of Venn diagrams that apply to my situation. But the idea is to find something. You can search for, let's say you live in United States, in New York or Boston, you would search aerospace events in New York, and you see what comes up. Or meetups, you search Meetup, you search Eventbrite, the common event websites. Wherever you live, in different parts of the world, different event websites will be popular. So wherever you live, you go to Google and you do that search and you find what are the sites that come up. Some sites that come up are big event sites on their own. Some sites are just websites by the event leader. But you just search Google and you pretty much find what the kinds of events that are going on in your area, and you go there and you network there. When you network there, you come professionally dressed, friendly, with a good positive attitude of helpfulness to others. You ask people, what do you do? First, take an interest in them. And then, of course, some people will also appreciate that and ask you about you. And this is where you're going to present yourself. And in the next video, I'm going to actually give you an idea for how to effectively present yourself so that people can either refer you to jobs or help you with advice, so that people know how to help you if they can. So we'll explore that in the next video. When you're doing professional networking at events in person, you may be coming there in two kinds of situations. One is you might have your own business that you're getting into some industry, or you might just want to start a new career in some industry. In this video, we're going to talk about how to pitch yourself if you're starting a career. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to pitch yourself, how to present yourself when you're starting a business, because the pitch is quite different and your needs are different. So here is how the conversation would flow if you're starting a career in a new industry and you want to make good career-long business contacts. Your focus is not the short term. Your focus is the long term. What does that mean? It means you invest in the right people. How do you know if a person is right? You ask them about themselves. So when you meet anyone during a networking event, you ask them about themselves. Ask questions. Try to help them. Think about how to help them. Don't offer it right away because it might not make sense, but at least start thinking and ask questions that are insightful and interesting for them to answer, and build rapport first. Once rapport is built, at one point or another, they will ask, what do you do? Because they're also there networking and they want to meet people. And here's how you answer this. I'm currently getting into XYZ industry and I'm looking for XYZ things like job recommendations, career advice, coaches, whatever it is that is currently your challenge. So that person whom you're talking with knows exactly which industry you're going into and what kind of help you need. And if they can provide that, they will, because you've built rapport with them. But you don't want to necessarily explicitly ask for a lot, because let's say they know of a job opening, they cannot recommend you yet because they don't actually know you. They just met you for 2 minutes only, right? So you have to build a relationship with them strong enough and show that you're professional enough that they can recommend you without that backfiring on them. Imagine if they recommend you, but then you end up not working out, then they look bad. So you want to prevent them from being afraid of that. You want to reverse that and actually make it seem to them that by recommending you, It's not going to backfire, but it's going to even improve their standing with wherever they're recommending you because you're that good. How do you show you're that good? You show that with past track record of success. Here's how it might look like. You might say the same things but augment it. So you might say, I'm trying to get into this industry. I'm very passionate about it. I've been working really hard on learning it, and I'm looking for job recommendations or advice. Okay, you say that same, but you add, I have 20 years or 10 or 5 years in such and such industry. If you don't have a lot of years experience, it's also okay, because you can say, but I've accomplished this and this and this in that industry, and very importantly, I'm already making a lot of progress in this new industry by, maybe you create your own little blog, a YouTube channel or something. You want to be active already, because you don't want to say, I've done nothing. Because there are many people, most people, their world is like this. I want to do this. I've done nothing to get there. And it might feel cynical that I say that, but as a longtime business coach, I heard the same phrase repeat the most. There's one phrase that repeated the most, is that I had this dream my whole life, but I never really did anything to get there. Okay, that's not a good sign, because what's the difference now? That they got motivated for the last 5 minutes, but they're going to get demotivated because they've already had so many chances to do this, right? So that's kind of almost a yellow flag. Like, you want to support people who have dreams. That's why coaches are in the coaching business mostly, right? Because they want to have people succeed. But the most heartbreaking thing is to see that people constantly dream but don't take action. And a lot of people, professionals, understand this. And so you don't want to appear as that kind of a person, and you want to show track record. Maybe a small track record, but a track record of doing something in the new industry. That sets you a world apart, because it paints a picture and it takes you away. Like, you're no longer with the majority of people who say, I've been wanting to, I've been hoping to, but I've been sitting on the sidelines. Don't want to sit on the sidelines. Do something even small, and that is going to get them to see, oh, this person is a go-getter. They're hardworking. They're learning. They're already achieving this. Maybe there's like a greater chance that they'll be like, all these signs point that like you're an A performer, right? Curious about the new field, passionate, already working hard in it, learning hard. This is the kind of person people want to hire and want to recommend. That's what I'm suggesting that you not just paint the picture of, but first create, and then that picture will paint itself, because you'll just tell the truth. So in the next video, I'm going to tell you about how to do your pitch in a networking scenario if you are starting a business. But after that, we're going to go back to how to actually position yourself and give yourself those little projects early on, so that you can say, hey, I'm new in this field, but I'm already doing so much. Because that's going to be a huge tipping point. It's going to tip the scales in your favor tremendously, and it's going to do that more than degrees or certificates. Doing and succeeding and making your own progress on your own is one of the most powerful things you can ever say at a networking event or at a job interview. So that's what we're going to focus on. But next, we're going to talk about how to network and how to pitch your business if you're starting a business in a new industry. In this video, let's talk about your 30-second business pitch. Some people call it your elevator pitch. Doesn't matter. It's the shortest way you can explain your business, and you will use it multiple times a day, every day, if you're doing your job as an entrepreneur, because anyone you talk to, potential business partners, potential investors, anyone who just asks in a conversation, you meet somebody and they're like, hey, so what do you do? And you got to give them your pitch so that it's clear and interesting, because nobody wants to hear confusing, rambling, talking about yourself. Because most of the time, first-time entrepreneurs, they love to talk about their ideas. They're like, well, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be $1 billion idea. Me. I'm so great. I'm so great. My idea is so great. Nobody wants to be on the receiving end of that. So you want to be clear and have your pitch fit naturally into a conversation so it doesn't kill the conversation. If it's not for them, like let's say your business is a cleaning business, if they don't need it, they're not going to become your client. But if it's for them and you're clear and you're brief, you'll stop and you'll give them a chance to ask you questions for maybe more. Then, of course, you can have a good conversation about it because it's an equal conversation that you're both enjoying. And of course, clarity and brevity, it's your first goal. Your next level goals is to be inspiring or funny. That just makes it more memorable. But don't try to do it in the beginning. Just try to be clear and brief and at least a little bit interesting. That's actually already very hard. So I'm going to give you a pitch template. This is from Adero Resi, who's a very successful entrepreneur and founder of the Founder Institute, which is a startup incubator. And he's got this pitch that I'm going to give you this template, and then I'm going to give you examples. So right after this video, you'll have like maybe a 10-15 second pitch that's even shorter than 30 seconds, and it will be effective and clear. So here's the pitch. The first sentence is, my company is XYZ, right? That's it. Is developing something, or if it's already in business, has a product or service, say what product or service it is, like maybe a cleaning service, okay. Then you say who it helps. In the case of a cleaning business, it might be residential cleaning, it might be offices. If the problem you're solving isn't clear, then you say with what problem you're solving. In this case, it's obvious what problem you're solving, so some of these sentences you can even at times skip. And then you say, with this unique approach. So if you have a unique approach, then you mention it here. If you're secretive about this business, you don't have to give away your secret, but really essentially the unique approach is where you might be secretive or private. So this is a template you can try to use. Let's go over it. I'm going to give you 2 examples of different kinds of businesses so that you will get a feel for it and hopefully you will create your own. The first example is an example of my own mobile app company. My company is Problemio.com. That built a mobile app series that helps entrepreneurs start a business, avoid pitfalls, and get guidance along the way by offering live expert help. The live expert help is like, the secret sauce, how I'm different. You see how tight it is? Obviously, I don't know your subjective experience to receiving this pitch, but I can say this in approximately 10 seconds or 15 seconds, and it gives a lot of clarity. Another thing I do when people ask me, so what do you do? Literally in one sentence, I say, I run a company that creates and sells educational products for entrepreneurs. It's literally one sentence. So it's even less than this. And people go like, oh, and then they ask more questions. And so the conversation flows. So you can play around with the phrasing depending on who you're talking to. Because if it's just a casual conversation, you want to be more brief. If it's an investor, you really want to compel them. So let's go over another company. So this is a mobile app. The next company will be a restaurant, something very different. Restaurant, let's say I'm starting a gourmet Italian restaurant that serves high-end Italian food to people who appreciate better quality food and can afford it. Then comes the line, who are you helping? And it's really for people who appreciate better food and can afford it. And the reason we're starting this is because there's lack of gourmet food in some upscale neighborhood. That's the opportunity. And our secret sauce or our differentiation is we have a world-class chef. But I would shorten this by literally I'm starting a gourmet Italian restaurant in such and such neighborhood that is an upscale neighborhood but has a low number of high-end restaurants, especially Italian restaurants. And we have a world-class head chef on staff. I mean, literally just a couple of sentences. And you can shuffle around the phrasing of it so it's more cadent, so that it flows better off your tongue. And you can play around with different variations of it so that you can see responses on people's faces when you tell them. But essentially, this template helps you not to go wrong and stay clear and not ramble on for 5 minutes, because that's the worst. In this video, I'm going to tell you the single most powerful way to break into a new industry, but it requires hard work. So it's the most powerful, least popular, at least in my experience, because I recommend this kind of a strategy to many people. Few people take me up on it, but it's something that I did multiple times throughout my career. It worked magically each time. So how does it work? You go and you take free projects or severely underpaid projects and you don't complain about it, but appreciate it, because you're not there for that money anyway. You're there for the experience, so that you can tell the employer, I worked for, let's just for example, an equivalent of $3 an hour, but I worked so hard and I gained this experience. And you know what? I overachieved on this project, and here's what I did. And nobody else did that, because that same opportunity was given to 100 people and I'm the only one who grabbed it. This story is what you want to create. That's an amazing, that's, wow, really? You were the one out of so many who took the least bit of opportunity and ran with it. And wow, remember that metaphor earlier in the course? Take an inch, run a mile, right? This is that story. You take the smallest opportunity and you make something out of it. I'll tell you how I used it. When I just graduated university, I got a computer science degree. And that was around 2004 or 5, I don't remember. But at that time, the computer science industry was dead. Software engineering was dead. Now it's super popular. Then the industry was just recovering from the dot-com crash of 2000, and there was like no jobs. It was a horrible economy. Basically, everybody in my major, all my university schoolmates, they thought they were going to get a job in something like marketing. They didn't even imagine they'd get a programming job, which is from that major, you're supposed to get a programming job, which was the dream of all of us. But we thought, just because the economy was so bad and we didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, that we thought, okay, just it's not going to happen for us. But then I did this. I found an internship online. All of us were looking for internships at that, around the end of school year, like the winter, you start looking for internships so that you can, by the time you graduate, show that, hey, you've gotten at least a few months of experience, so you can get jobs easier. So I found this internship, and it was really kind of sketchy. They were hiring college students for some kind of really dumb tasks, and I try to stay there. I try to be open-minded, and what I noticed is every week they would get new college students, because the ones from the previous week were like, this is a horrible internship. It was for a small company that was pretty broke, and they were almost not paying, and they were kind of cheating people out of the paying, whatever. But and it was a ridiculous place, looking back at it. But if I thought that, if I allowed myself to think that, I wouldn't have succeeded. I thought, okay, well, I'll make the best of it. So because I was a software engineer by trade, I was a computer science major, whatever the dumb tasks they made people do, they took people from all kinds of majors, college students. I automated it. I wrote a program that automated it. And the program didn't even work that well, because they had some issues. It was some complexities, and I only had a part-time that I was there. But I'm the only one who did that, right? While every other intern was kind of like, 1 week you're here, next week you quit. 1 week you're here, next week you quit, right? So I stood out. And at one point, I was doing this for like a few months already, free internship, just free. They gave me some project, slightly bigger project, programming project. And they paid me some called a stipend, which was, if you count the hours I earned, was like only 20% of the current minimum wage that was legally allowed, but it was a stipend. So it was no money. Like, I had an actual part-time job that I had throughout my university. I was a security guard, and sometimes I was a construction worker during university. But that paid my bills. So this stipend that this company gave me was nearly nothing. So it wasn't helpful. But I thought, okay, it's better than nothing, but also I'm doing interesting work that they're letting me have freedom. And I did something successful there. And just by chance, they had a job opening for a software engineer. And by the way, still, at this time, 0 of my classmates, the entire graduating class in my computer science class, no jobs. And here I am working at least, like a self-made internship that's getting better and better. And suddenly this company where I was having this rip-off stipend and all these dumb projects, they had an opening for a software engineer position, and they realized they can pay me 3 times less than a software engineer who has 5 years experience. So they hired me. I was there. They knew me. They didn't have to interview me. I was there already. I was just there, right? And they would have had to go through a long hiring process. it's hard to hire engineers, etc. It's expensive. They hired me. I stayed there for 6 more months or 8 or 9 more months, and I completed 2 projects, like professional engineering projects, and I got a job, like a regular job at the next company. I said thank you, and I went on to like a normal, real professional company, while most of my schoolmates, even people who were way smarter than me and way better students than me, and I thought during university, wow, they're gonna succeed, I way outperformed them. They were still struggling because they, followed the same old path. And I was like, hey, I did it through hard work. The same pattern. And by the way, it's true. Like, people were like, wow, how did you get this job? I cannot get any job. And I had a software engineering job, like right out of college, in a economic time where it was like impossible. And I did it through this hard work where just about everybody would have quit a long time ago. Same thing happened when I started working online. In the early days of Fiverr, very early days, I started providing services for like $5. Coaching services, marketing services, business planning services, all kinds of services. $5. By the way, on Fiverr, Fiverr.com, you may be familiar. Some people are familiar, some not. $5, but you don't even keep $5. You keep $4 because the $1, 20% goes to the company, Fiverr, for their commission. So essentially $4, severely underpaid. Yes, it's severely underpaid. Most people will see it as a turnoff, and it is. But there's a silver lining that's smarter to notice. The silver linings are like this. You get an incredible amount of experience without having a job. So if you want to break into an industry, you need experience. This is how you get experience, and still getting paid a little bit for it, just like that earlier internship, that stipend, the horrible stipend they gave me. Okay, I took it. Okay, most people would say this is beneath me, or they would feel that, and it might be, but sometimes in life you got to be scrappy, and this is what I was. So I did all these projects, and then, by the way, I learned to upsell. So it wasn't actually, my order size was way more than $4 in the end. I learned to upsell, and I learned how to do all these things in different industries. Remember, like, imagine if you had experience with like 100 projects in different industries in your main, like, let's say I was providing SEO services, that's search engine optimization, basically Google marketing. But imagine if you had 100 little projects in it. You would get so many perspectives and so many ideas that you wouldn't get if you had just one major project, right? So I got all of these ideas and all of this little by little, all these experiences. And not only I started to be able to charge higher prices, to learn to upsell, to retain clients longer, and some clients turn into very high paying ones, because this is actually the key to that Fiverr site. Nobody there wants to make $3 or $4, like $5, right? People want to upsell and make a lot of money, and successful sellers actually make over $1 million, but they have to be good and get that experience, right? You kind of got to build up. Most people just want to start on day one and be successful, but the successful people are who work hard for a long time, persevere through the failures, just like in any industry, and then they succeed. Same thing was for me. Now I stopped Fiverr because I just don't have the time, but over time I completed over 2,000 jobs there, big, small, whatever. So much experience, right? So now when I teach search engine optimization, it's from a ton of experience. When I do it for clients, when I coach clients and they say, hey, do you know do you have experience in this industry? Well, yeah, I've talked to 5 people who started a business in your exact industry, in your exact situation, right? And few people can say that. So now people say, how did you make so many courses online? How do you get this experience? Well, it's because every day I'm still working with entrepreneurs, not necessarily from Fiverr, but still working all the time through hard work. But that those freelancing sites give you plenty of paid, not well paid in the beginning, but at least they're paid projects where the most important thing is that you learn and gain experience and invest in yourself, because that self is going to go to job interviews and say, you know what, instead of doing nothing, I have a blog on this subject, I have a thriving YouTube channel and a podcast. And by the way, I've had over 100 clients in this industry, and I've seen this perspective, this perspective, this perspective, and I have 99% 5-star ratings or something like that. Now, that's so much more impressive than same candidate, oh, I got a certificate, or I didn't do much, I'm just looking for an opportunity. This is a non-go-getter versus a go-getter. And the more go-getter you are, I know it's hard, I know it's frustrating, but the one saving thought is that you're investing in your future. This is really it. Imagine if you got a degree, a master's degree. It would cost you, at least in the United States, like way over $100,000 plus 2 years during which you're probably not working much or at all. So it's like $200,000 or $300,000, depending on how good the school is and what you do. But it's super expensive, right? You're investing in your future. This way, you're investing in your future by getting paid and by having your learnings be way more practical. Business school students are in school. They're sitting in the classroom. They don't have the real world experience. Maybe they'll get an internship at the end, but you'll get one faster, and you'll get dozens of them that are smaller that you choose that are interesting for you. Okay? So, and you'll get paid for it. So you won't be like $250,000 in debt, at least, by United States prices. So this is what I would recommend, and it works way better than degrees in most fields. Doing the work, being a hungry, greedy go-getter, it's way more effective than you should. If you can get certificates that are cheap or fast, sure. But a lot of certificate programs, they're just ripoffs, right? Like, pay us $15,000 for this piece of paper certificate, but learn not so much and gain not so much experience, whereas you can be gaining so much more. So this path that I outlined, in my opinion, and in my practice, in my real experience, is profoundly better. It's not just a little better. It's incredibly better, and the results are wildly better. The jobs you get, the amount of money you ultimately make, which is the whole purpose of this in the first place, right? You don't want to go in debt. You want to make money. This is the most fruitful thing, and employers, they're going to see this and they're going to say, "Wow! Imagine if we gave this person a small opportunity. How far can they go with a small opportunity?" Employers look for. This is a thing in hiring. Good employers, leaders, look for other employees who can become leaders. So they take a small opportunity and grow into something bigger, promotions. That's what employers really want, is to hire these A players, and that's exactly what you're not telling them you'll be, but showing them. In this video, I want to talk about how to build up your online personal brand and do your online reputation management so that it's very impressive and looks like you're making inroads and success in your new industry, even if you are new. Because when you're networking or if you're going to a job interview, this is going to be your biggest resume piece, that you're doing something and succeeding on your own. You're a go-getter. That's leadership skills, all those good qualities employers want. So the options are that are easiest. Your blog can be as simple as taking daily news in your industry and commenting on those news with your opinion. Or it can be interviewing other successful people in your industry, which actually transitions really well into a blog. But if you don't mind appearing on video, you can create interviews. That would be either YouTube interviews or podcasts, right? So right away, very easily, without a tremendous amount of effort, some effort, but it's good effort, because this effort is actually going to help you learn a lot about the industry which you're getting into. Just being in it and looking at the news and even interviewing successful people in it, this is actually great for networking, for establishing long-term relationships with people. But all those moments that you're going to be in that, you're going to be learning the industry. So it's great for you. You're building experience, real experience, but also you're building up something you can show. You can show a blog, you can show a YouTube channel, you can show a podcast, and you can really say, hey, I'm being really active. I'm a go-getter in this field. Those kind of three things, and additional social media posting. Like if you're doing already content like this, YouTube, you can make TikToks and Instagram and Twitter. You can post everywhere on social media, and suddenly you have a presence. Now imagine A month, 3 months passes, 6 months passes, your audience suddenly grows. You don't have to be a big influencer, like giant influencers you see there around the internet, but you can be what's called a micro influencer with 1,000 followers, 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, maybe 500 subscribers on YouTube, even relatively small numbers. But now this employer thinks we can actually get promotion from this person. Now, that's not their main reason for hiring you, but it's certainly a good benefit, because now you actually have promotional benefits that they want you on their team a little more. But more importantly, they are seeing, oh, you're doing a lot of things. Remember when we talked about connecting the dots earlier in this course, when we talked about getting mentors? Here, when you're creating a blog or a podcast or a YouTube channel, on the interview, you can explain that in a way that connects the dots. First, you started a blog, then a YouTube channel, then a podcast, then it grew, then there was a challenge, then you overcame that challenge. This answers so much for your potential employer in a way that doesn't say, like, I'm great. It shows that you're great, which is so much more powerful, because everybody who's interviewing is going to say, I'm great. And then the interviewer is going to ask them questions. Tell me about the greatest challenge you faced. Well, actually, that was already in your story. When you were struggling, how did you overcome the initial blog post failures or YouTube videos that got maybe 3 views, and how did you overcome that? It's in your story of working in this industry. And by the way, working in the industry, having a project, shows something you can't buy: passion. It shows curiosity and passion. Employers want you to be genuinely interested in their industry, because that they know that's going to naturally give you the right kind of motivation. So you're already answering so many questions that they would have for you without saying a single word. That's the power of doing your own online work. Now, the other benefit of all this online work, imagine if you have a YouTube channel, a podcast, a blog, all this stuff, right? You don't know this, but just about every employer who's going to be interviewing you, and even people who are just networking with you, if they're interested, they're going to research you online by typing in your name. Like, my name is a very unique name. There's only one of my name in the world. But let's say you have a common name, they'll still find you, but they'll just have to put, John Smith in the industry. Okay, so they can easily still find you. Or sometimes they'll type your website or something about you, so they'll find you online. And what you don't want is random nothingness about you online. And you'll replace that with, imagine how good it would be if people search your name, they find a professionally created LinkedIn that talks about this industry and what you're already doing. Okay, next search result. They find your website that talks about, that actually contains your blog as well and talks about all these things you're doing in the industry. Then they go and next they find your maybe Facebook group community that you made, maybe your Instagram, maybe your YouTube channel, and they think to themselves, oh wow, like this is a more impressive candidate than a candidate who had nothing, which is most of your competitors for the same job, right? So it's a leg up, and it shows without you even saying a word. It's that powerful. Now, there's another really, really, really powerful thing you can do, and it requires a lot of hard work, but it's something I did early on, and I'm going to tell you about it in the next video. But that really, really, really sets you apart and creates an incredible personal brand story for yourself, for your potential employer. So I'll tell you how to create such a story and build that picture in the next video. Now I want to tell you a personal anecdote from my own career of how I tried to transition industries and it turned into my business that I actually run now, which I totally didn't expect. It just happened that way. So in about 2009, 10, 2011, I was a software engineer and I tried some projects on my own. I had a dream of starting my own business, but those haven't worked out really well at that time yet. And I needed to make money, so I was working as a software engineer. And at this time, the hot industry in software engineering was mobile app development. It was just starting out. The smartest people were getting into that. And so I had to get into that because in the software industry, you're like this. You can be a programmer, but if you're not learning the next thing, you're very quickly becoming a dinosaur. And you cannot be a dinosaur in software engineering. It's just like death of your career. So I had to learn mobile app development so I can get mobile app development jobs. And learning mobile app development is okay, but just learning theoretically doesn't get you very far. So you had to, or at least I thought that I had to create a small project. Like I talked about earlier, you can create a small project as small as a blog or a YouTube channel. In my case, because I was a software engineer, I was able to, actually start to program some apps. And you can create other things in other industries. In some industries, it's easier, more difficult, but you can always think creatively about what you can make. So I made an app. So I can basically, just so that I can show a potential employer at a job interview, so that I made an app instead of just saying like I have no experience and I'm learning, right? Here's my app. So I was making this app, and when you make an app, you have to put it in the iPhone and Android app stores naturally, and I put it into those app stores. Version 1, the worst version of it that was possible. Most things were broken. I was just playing around in my own project, but I put it in the app store so that some friends can download it. And then I noticed that actual users are downloading this thing from the app stores, and so I quickly created a feature in this app just to chat with those users. They can chat with me, create chat. And the next day I was like chatting with people, or the next week, and they were telling me about all these features that they wanted to add, that they were looking for. And so I built them a couple of weeks later. And then this app started becoming successful because the people who were asking for these features are users. The features that I was building came right from the needs of the users. So next users and future users really found this app helpful. And actually they asked for a certain kind of, it was a business app initially, and they asked for some kind of like business planning help. And so I made a business planning app in the end, and because it was satisfying their needs, it became actually the #1 business planning app on Android. And for a number of years, it became like really successful in the business category overall. At the end, I had like 2 million downloads, which is a lot, and all free, or like 99% free downloads. I experiment with some ads, but the main point is that free downloads. And this app was like my living. I actually was making a living. I stopped looking for a job. I wasn't making like a good living at that time, but I was making a living enough that I no longer needed to get a job. It actually became like I entered this field, and my project that I wanted to show to an employer became my business. And then people were asking me, there was still chat on that app, and people were asking me all kinds of questions, and I started answering them. At first, I was just answering questions through chat on that app, but very quickly I realized that many of the people who were asking me questions are asking me the same questions all the time, like how do I start a business? How do I register a business? How do I protect my intellectual property? Those kinds of questions. So I thought, instead of answering for the 20th time the same question, I'll make a YouTube video. So I started making YouTube videos answering those questions once, and then all I had to do when people asked me that question again, I would just point them to the YouTube link. And that actually was the beginning of my YouTube channel. Now, I was horrible at YouTube and videos, but at least it was a start. And that YouTube channel actually, like a year later, led me to creating full online courses, which here we are, right? Many, many years later, I'm still doing a lot of online courses. So that project that I just wanted to start to show an employer, to say, hey, I know app development, actually morphed into what I do now, which is so amazing because it came out way better than I ever dreamed. I just dreamed of having a job where I actually now have my own business, right? All from the hard work and trying and working on your own projects. And of course, a blog can become a business because you can sell products from your blog, your products that you make, or other products from other brands for a commission. Same thing on YouTube. You can make money with ads, or by ad sponsorships, or selling products. If you start working on your things that you build up, those things can turn into something bigger than a job, which is something that actually happened to me, which is the anecdote that I really wanted to share because I lived this for the last 15 years or so. So that's just an anecdote, that real thing that happened, that I wanted to share because it can happen. It's, at least for me, it was a best possible scenario, because my dream was to be on my own and pursue my own ideas and curiosities, which that's what I'm doing now. So yes, you can transition to a new industry and get a job, but you can actually create something for yourself that's totally unique and your own as well. All by doing your own little projects, not being afraid of investing your time and mental effort and passion, because when you start building something like that app, now it's defunct because I just don't have enough time to update it. The app stores have all kinds of requirements and have to keep updating it. I stopped updating it because now the course business ended up my main business. But I didn't know that then, right? By just, instead of sitting on the sidelines and waiting, maybe getting a certificate or a degree, if you do little projects that maybe fail, but go get into something bigger, or even if they don't fail, maybe they only have mediocre success, but they lead to something bigger, this is one thing that can sometimes happen and really unlock opportunity that would otherwise never present itself. Because if I just asked for a job and got a job, I would never be doing this. And this is, for me, worked out way better. So don't be afraid of doing things. It will pay for itself. Investing in your own future through your own hard work and spending time and the sweat equity that you build pays for itself many times over.